everyone, and welcome to this week's Talking Stick Show. So I'd like to welcome a special guest who's been on twice before. We welcome back Debbie Smartt. Hello, Debbie.
Hi, Toby. It's really wonderful to be on your show and to reconnect again after it was about a month or so ago now, wasn't it?
A month or so ago, and I've had a past life regression with Debbie before, and it's unique speaking to you. I remember when I first saw one of your videos with Andrew Bartis on one of the courses I got. I saw you and went, oh, interesting. And here you are, and I'm very honored to have you back on the show. I really do enjoy you on the show. It's really incredible to speak to you.
It's a real pleasure to be here, and I really feel honored to be able to talk on your show, Dale. It's I like to watch what you do and the way you inspire people. It's amazing, and so it's just wonderful to be able to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And so for those listeners who have never heard of Debbie before, don't know what she does, what she's involved with, if you could give us a quick synopsis of what you do, Debbie.
Well, I'm a past life therapist. That's my specialty. I like to take people back to their root cause problems that they just can't find answers for in this reality and can't understand what's going on with their life. There's certain patterns that there's just no answers for. And so when we do a regression, I ask their higher self to take them back to the root cause of where this all began. And 9 times out of 10, it takes them back into a previous lifetime. I was very surprised when I first started working with hypnotherapy. I was just going to work with people in this timeline. And when people started popping back into other past lives, then I realized that they carry through this unfinished baggage or unfinished business. And so it represents itself again in each timeline that we go in until you actually address it and heal it and get the wisdom from it. Once you get the wisdom from it, you don't have to keep experiencing those problems. And they can come from anywhere through fear of heights, relationship problems with, parents, and they can't understand why they're just triggered by their mother or their father, or why they're treated in a certain way and made to feel a certain way. And it's something that they've carried over from lifetimes with unfinished business with their family members. And so when we get in there, we can clear all of that, and the timeline just shifts and opens to a whole new reality for them and gives them a new opportunity to step forward and evolve more.
Beautiful. And so for the years of you doing it, Debbie, what have you learned from doing it, and through hindsight and foresight from when you first started to now? What would it be, summing up all the things you've experienced into it would take hours doing it, but what are some of the parts of it you've learned through the long time of you doing it and mastering it and helping people facilitate that growth?
I just realized, the biggest overall picture for me is that we are so much more than what we think we are, and there's so much more going in the unseen world than we realize. And a lot of people that opens them up to a whole new possibilities. And that over the years from when I first began and I basically only stepped into doing it is to basically help my family and friends, and not take it into the marketplace at all. And it evolved, as the more I did it, the more it evolved intuitively, and also I evolved with it. And I learned so much every time I take people, back and through things, and they're addressing certain things. I feel a certain level of healing and wisdom and understanding I get from it as well. I really, resonate, and I suppose I draw people to me that have got very similar things that I've had to heal within myself, and so then I can really be there for them and help them go through and transverse through it all and heal it. But where it's coming to now is so much more interdimensional. In this past, like I'd say, in these past 2 years, a lot of the people that are going back to root cause things are on other planets. They've experienced themselves as other beings, like the mantis beings. I had a friend of mine. She's like, "Oh, I think I'm an insect," and she's like, "This can't be right." It just opened up a whole new world for me to just trust my intuition and be able to guide them through a lot of these off-world experiences that they've had. You know,
and we talked about a bit of light language as well, which is the expansion, which is going through at the moment. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, this just started this year, basically. Some of my clients who've never engaged in light language, about halfway through their session, all of a sudden they start talking in light language, and they're bringing in codes from their higher self, or from, you know, from their guides, are bringing in codes for them. And so as they're speaking this light language, it's encoding itself through their energy field, and also assisting them. And so they'll go into some light language, and then they'll start talking again, and then they'll go into some more light language. And the first time it hit me, I'm like, what do I do with this? And that was really interesting, because then I started engaging in light language myself when I'm doing my processes, and in ceremony and stuff. It just automatically starts coming through. So I got a better understanding of it. But when it first hit with one of my first clients that did that, I was in shock. So I'm like, what's going on?
Is she speaking French or Spanish?
I couldn't understand a word. So it's like,
and from my own experience of light language, it's great to be able to. For me, it helps me when I'm doing a reading on someone who's come for a session. I'm able to translate words better from I'd say the infinite or the unseen world into the physical world, and it kind of like, it's like a nice smooth over where it helps you kind of go into that flow, doesn't it, of everything?
Yes, it really does. And and sometimes that I started noticing, when I'm taking people through their session, I take notes, to keep me focused, and so I know where to take them next. That and I can go back over and at the end of the session, go over some of the points and everything with the people, and then I started noticing that halfway through, like towards the end of it, actually, might have been. I think the first time it happened, it was halfway through, and all of a sudden I started writing in this other type of, it looked like to me, shorthand. But it was all these different symbols and things that were coming through. And my granddaughter, when she saw it, she goes, "Well, you're writing light language." And I'm like, "What? You can write light language?"
You got a very special granddaughter, haven't you?
I do.
That's great. and so this, going into this Lion's Gate, Debbie, how has it been for you? So today we are with the 8-8, and we are going in to, we are say, it's hard to say going into the Lion's Gate. I'd say it's happening different for everyone in their own way, in the different processes. So how has this Lion's Gate been for you, Debbie?
Well, I think it's been building up to today, and I feel like it's like I was saying before, there's two waves of energy now converging. We've got the magnetic energy, we've got the electrical energy coming through. Two energies come through, and one's a masculine energy and one's a feminine energy. And the electrical wave that's coming through is the masculine, and the magnetic wave that's coming through is the feminine. And when the Lion's Gate comes, like today is like a convergence of these energies, and they come in and they unite, and it becomes a reunion of this energy, and it's very, very powerful. So you've got the masculine and the feminine energies converged in a reunion, and this is the energy that can open up your heart. It's a very, very powerful energy for uniting the planet, bringing in peace. This is the time where we can focus on making a shift and a change in our ascension process.
And it feels like, for me, I'd say 2 days ago, going into, my heart at one point was really open, and it was such a nice space I was in for a while. And it was yesterday evening that was something in me which was needing to be looked at. And it will get into more of this trauma stuff and how important it is to be responsible during these times, because with the great energy means that if the stuff, say, unhealed within you, or if there's stuff not resolved in you, at times like the Lion's Gates or the solstice or equinox, a lot of it polarizes, and a lot of it, people can have hard times going through these processes. And I remember you saying that a lot of people around you, with what's going on and the solar flares, it's just constant all the time. And we're having to kind of go through this lake or this ocean. And yeah, so for me, I'll talk a little bit about what happened with me. So it was yesterday evening. I've had such a great experience. It's been really potent. I've been really feeling this heart energy coming in. And there was an aspect of me which was not wanting to go through this resolving heart space energy. And it was a part of me from when I was 8, and we said about this when I was 8 years old on the 8th Lionsgate. There was a moment in time where I was uncertain about my future. My family had to get another house and they had to do a move. And for me, I was worried, and I was picking up my mum and dad's stuff, what they were thinking about, and not having that comfort of a certain future. All of those different things came to me yesterday. And this morning, as part of my Lionsgate ritual, I was doing breath work at the start. I was doing my prayer. Then I went back in time to speak to that 8-year-old, and I had to resolve it, because this Lionsgate for me was just an indication of, right, this needs to be healed in you. It's time for you to be able to look at it, resolve it, and move forward. And it would be great for this show, Debbie, to go into this trauma and go into the areas of different traumatic states, because I feel a lot of people have so much trauma, but they don't have any guidance in how to do it safely and correctly. So we could start with trauma. What's one of the biggest things to realize with trauma? Maybe forgiveness. Would that be something which is always a starting point of any single doing the trauma work?
It's huge. Forgiveness, I always find, at the end towards the end of the session, when when they've gone through that, through the knowledge of how they live that life. And there's always, and the reason why they've gone back to those and it's affecting them in this timeline is because they've just not gotten the wisdom from it. And a lot of the time it's pain and resentment and anger and stuff like that. And the only way to resolve that is to forgive it and understand why you chose it. So what I normally do is, and you probably do the same thing, is one of the big questions I ask is, what was your soul's contract in that lifetime? And the soul's contract basically is, what were you there to learn and to master? And, and it was like, oh, I was there to actually experience the polarity, the pain, to understand and get compassion, right? And so they didn't, and they became angry, and they became, belligerent, or whatever they did. And they hurt other people, created a karma, and they've got to come back in and learn it. So they create another situation that's going to make them angry and unforgiving, because they're going to be into the blame and shame and all that sort of stuff. And so forgiveness is a huge one. But, it's easy to say, I forgive you, but it has to come from a very deep soul level. And even so, in the work that you do and the work that I do, you're taking people back to that point of where that pain originated and why they chose it, and the wisdom that they needed to learn from that. And then it's easy to unravel it and release it back to source and say, I understand now why I reacted like that, and I really needed to learn compassion or forgiveness, or had to learn to love myself. There's a lot of self-worth that comes up in a lot of those too.
And how are the parents, because I feel forgiveness, there's a lot of, not I'm saying for everyone, but a lot of examples would be parents. So let's talk about the parents and the mother and father, and how does that forgiveness, how do you learn in forgiveness through them, so on and so forth. So how important is it healing and forgiving the relationship with the mother and father? Because that's one of the biggest things for people, is the dad issues, the mum issues. I've been there.
Yeah, me too.
Yes.
Where certain people have triggered me. I was sharing a house with this friend of mine way back when I was, trying to get my life back together after I got divorced and everything. And so, you're struggling and you're sharing a place with this other woman who went through something similar, and she had a child, and I had my 2 daughters. And she triggered me something insane. And so I had to go off and meditate and go, what is it that, that she's trying to show me? And all of a sudden I got this whole download of my mother, who was controlling, and I felt powerless around her because she was so controlling about everything she did. And so then I realized that she was, this person was just a mirror for me to get in touch with where I had unfinished pain and holding resentment and anger and whatever. So then I can breathe that through and you know, say, I understand that now and I forgive that because I obviously chose that experience. If you've got to take responsibility for what you are experiencing, because we always have the tendency to point out, you know, oh, it was my mother that did this to me and whatever. But your mother's playing out a role and you're triggering her at the same time as she's triggering you, because you both got a soul contract to come in and heal it from, you know, previous lifetimes that you probably carried through several lifetimes. Because our family members and the people that we're close to in our relationships and all that, we're all come in to remind us of where we're unfinished with certain things, and we have to get the wisdom from it. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. And we've just, as you spoke, can you hear me okay, Debbie? Like, do I sound okay when I'm speaking?
Yes.
There seems to be a bit of not a delay, but kind of like a fluffle on my side. So what I'm going to do, 1 second. Can you, yes, I think it's my speaker. For some reason, when you were speaking, then it just sounded a bit.
The frame freezes and then all of a sudden you jump back in.
Yes.
No, your frame's
there freezing. We go. What I'm just going to do now is, 1 second, I'm going to just put my video off and hopefully this will resolve the situation. And right, I'm just going to click mute as well and just come on, and hopefully the mic will rejig. So yeah, hopefully that's a lot better. Then I'll put it back on when we go up a little bit more. So yeah, the parents do hold that challenges for us, and a lot of people come see me, and one of the biggest hurdles is their mum or the dad, or especially for me, and being brutally honest, my main issue was my father, because my father came in, and like you talk about, Debbie, with the soul contracts, this is so important for us to unreel this, discover this more and more. So my dad came in as a soul to basically not really talk to his family, not talk to his children. I don't think my dad really had any conversations with me properly about how I was. Nothing ever at all asked me when you spoke to him how I was doing. It was just ingrained to him from his mother and father, and it's been passed down through ancestral karma. So I figured out when my dad died, and with help from some psychics, would be my dad's contract was to play that role for the ancestors, to play that role for me to come into my power by learning those lessons of hardship and actually realizing that there was no blame there, and it was just how it was meant to be, and we were contracted as a soul to come in and do this.
Right. And so you've got children of your own now, so that you know, you've got the wisdom and the understanding of how that affected you, and you don't, and then it stops with you. So yes. So that now with your children, it's a whole different, way of being, because you know how that affected you, and you're not going to pass that ancestral line on like that.
Yes, definitely. And so from your growing up, Debbie, and the era of time you were in, what was it like for people being able to express themselves? Because this is another ancestral negative karma. What was it like being able to actually talk about how you truly feel, and actually, was there any mental health awareness then?
No, because back in my day, they were still carrying on a bit like children should be seen and not heard. So you were never encouraged to express your feelings, because and if you expressed anger, and it was a great learning for me, because I did not do that to my children, because I knew what I experienced. So when I got angry, I got smacked. But my mother actually smacked me across the face if I answered back. If I got angry and slammed the door, I'd come in and I get a hiding for that. And with my girls, I really wanted to allow them to express, because I realized that suppression really affected me, and being able to, my self-worth, and being able to speak up for myself. It created a fear of authority. And so, so when my children got angry, what are you feeling that's making you so upset?
Yes.
And so they felt heard, and that just dissolved a lot of that feeling of the anger and whatever, because it pents up in them and they feel that they need to express. And if you shut them down, that's going to affect them through their whole life.
Yes.
So that's what I got taught from my childhood, that I stopped it. It stopped with me, and I created a different reality for my children.
And there we go. That's beautifully said that, and it's so simple, but it's so simple but so true. Is that you chose to create a different reality for your children? All it was a choice point where you said, "Hang on a minute, I do not want this reality anymore. I'm now choosing to chart, say, my own course in a different way."
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And so with your dealings of anger, because I feel for me that was one of the hardest points for going through my own anger from my dad, from my mum, and a lot of people in the Lions Gates and all these great changes deal with a lot of self anger. So what would you recommend for those dealing with anger at the moment and rage and all of those energies? How would you be able to, because I know this is a huge hurdle for a lot of people.
It really is. And the sad thing about it is that people haven't been taught how to direct that energy, because anger is a very, very powerful energy. I mean, it's a really powerful energy, as you well know. People, can absolutely smash things, and the strength that comes out with anger. And so it's learning how to direct that energy. For me personally, what I did when I got really angry later on, in my marriage, my first marriage, and I got divorced and whatever, but it taught me a lot. And so when I got really angry, instead of projecting it to my partner or projecting it, to somebody else, what I did was I just started cleaning my house. I thought, I've got so much energy, I need to do something with it. A couple of times I went outside and I'd be, I got to scream it out of my body. And I did a course one time where they get to get a tennis racket and hit the cushions and just move it. As long as you just move that energy out, and once it's spent, you find you get back into balance. What I did was I started cleaning my house from top to bottom and everything. And so I used all this energy to clean. And when I finished, my house looked fabulous. And I was like, oh, and that made me really happy. Because I got something positive out of it.
and that's great. That reminds me of the badger totem, aggression, but in a positive medicine way of making you exactly what you were doing then, is flipping the aggression into something meaningful and in something which you can manifest with. And a lot of people have those moments. I have them when a lot of stress will happen, and I'll have my dad's programs which I've seen from him come in, and it's like the parasympathetic and it all kind of takes over, and us being aware of that and how we can actually in that moment find ourselves, talk to ourselves and go, right, I'm now going to go out, I'm going to put my effort into, say, cleaning or anything else. A lot of people haven't been taught that, and like you say, how important it is not to throw your anger at people, because a lot of people do that and they can create even more nasty karma for the children or the family, whoever's there.
It can be. You can either use anger in a positive way or a destructive way, because anger can be very destructive, and it can be destructive to the people around you. And so, in a positive way, like I know my kids used to drive me so to the point where I really just wanted to hit them, And I knew that if I started smacking, I wouldn't be able to stop. I was so angry. I just want to, So it's a choice. So it's like you've got to control yourself. So that's when I'd go outside and I just like scream it out and get it out of my body first, or find a cushion and get my tennis racket and hit the cushion instead of my children. and then go clean the house or whatever. You've got to do something in a positive way where you're not going to be aggressive to somebody and affect somebody, and it's going to create a permanent pain or
and it just dropped a bit then, the signal again. It's so good. Just dropped a little bit on that end bit, then I'm like having to think what the last bit of the words were when you said that. Then moving forward onto suppression of anger, because this is a huge one, and we have the people who do release their anger, they get it out, they start manifesting their anger. But for those, and your experience with people who suppress anger, so what happens with the suppression, and how bad is it when people just suppress their emotions all the time and hold it all in?
What that does is, it's like you say, it's like putting a cork on a bottle, and the energy just builds and builds and builds and builds until it explodes, and that's when it can be very dangerous. and another thing it does too, when people internalize that anger and suppress it, this is when they get diseases. It that eats away at them, and they can end up with cancer and all sorts of different sicknesses and diseases and depression, all sorts of. So it's better to find a way to move that energy out instead of locking it in, because it will build and will build and build. And then person only has to do one tiny little thing and you can explode, and they go, where did that come from?
The campaign
Yeah.
and it is that I've been not okay because I've always had wear my heart out on my sleeve, and if I do have an emotion, or when I was younger, I always let it out. I was never those ones who let it in. But it's interesting you say that, Debbie, about disease, because my own personal views of a lot of, I'm not saying all of them, but like cancer and stuff like that, there is a lot of connection, I feel, to suppression of people. So say if someone grows up and they're suppressed, I think sometimes it can kind of manifest. I'm not saying it may be cancer, but like you say, loads of different diseases.
Yeah, or high blood pressure.
Yes.
Like I'm saying, that you've got pressure that builds all this energy and tension that's been locked in their body. And then you've got the opposite, where people experience so much pain and sadness, and they just withdraw into themselves, and then anybody calls it depression. And basically what that does is, when a person withdraws within themselves going through depression, this is a time of self-reflection. Instead of just getting locked in it and just giving into it, it's like it's a time to reflect, and is going, okay, what's making me feel so sad? What's making me feel so depressed? Where's it actually coming from? And how can I remove it? Or how can I heal this? Because sometimes it's just they're allowing the external to affect them too much. But there's also a learning and a lesson behind everything that we experience, and that's when it's wonderful to find people who have got a modality that will help you go internally, like the work that you do, the work that I do. There's all sorts of different modalities there to help a person get in touch with what's actually going on within their psyche, and to release it and get the wisdom and understanding so that they can move on and not affect themselves physically in a health way.
And that was, I'll say it here, when my dad did pass away. I had a reading with Andrew Bartis about my dad, and asked him, and there was many other reasons. It wasn't just the one reason why he got a brain tumor, but one of them was the suppression of his soul. He couldn't never talk about his emotions. He could never ever spoke about his emotions. So it manifested in, obviously, him dying earlier than he, and so on and so forth. So it is quite a serious matter, really, for us to be aware of, and for those listening out there, if you're one of those people who don't speak and you have a lot to talk about, very important to kind of start talking about things, even if you feel like shit, even if you are angry, get it out there, because when things are bottled up inside of us, and we see it time again, don't we, when people go and kill themselves, a lot of majority of these people, Debbie, would you say they're people who just don't talk, and all of a sudden, like you said, they'll just have that moment where it'll just be right. I don't want to be here anymore, which is
Exactly. And it's really sad too, because a lot of the parents, when their children have committed suicide, can't understand that. They're saying, well, the child was going on really well, they seemed really happy, they seemed really balanced, they never saw it coming. But that's where the child was holding back what was really going on, and found a way how to hide it so well. And it's learning to recognize the like what's recognize the symptoms,
yes,
that a child displays. And so it's really good for us to encourage our children to speak like every night when I used to put my children when they were little, put them to bed, I'd sit on the side of the bed. Both my girls they shared a room, so that they had a bed on either side of the room there. And I'd sit down with the youngest first, and I'd just say, "How was your day? Did anything happen?" And so this is when they'd open up and tell me a lot of stuff, what's going on for them. So they got to express, if things were going on at school that was really, painful or hurtful or whatever. And I do the same with my other daughter. So we had this great open relationship where they could express, and they didn't have to wait till they got angry to express. I encouraged them every night when I put them into the bedroom. A lot of people go to bed and they read a story to their children. I used to go in there and just start talking about, so how are you feeling? How was your day at school? When they're really young, when they were younger, I used to read stories to them. And then, as they got older, I used to put on a really nice meditation tape that they used to go to sleep listening to. Yeah. It was called A Secret Garden, and they loved it, because it just gave them all this magical stuff, and they just drift off in this magical land, and helped their creativity. And so it made such a difference to their, to the way they live their life now.
Beautiful. And that's it, Debbie, is some small adjustments in our reality, in our environment, of doing that for the children. And if you find yourself with children and you do have a lot of stuff going on, say programs from the father and mother, it's out creating it. Like you said, you wanted to change, you made a choice to do this. So like you did then, speaking to them, very important, making them feel safe. I think for me, when I grew up, I felt like I couldn't be honest about how I felt, and I felt guilty about how my feelings were, or me getting angry and my voice being not heard. So those things bottling up, and it happened to me where I went off the rails when I was about 19, 20, where I just wanted to go out and party. And that was me, like, that was just basically all this suppression and gone, right, I want to fucking go find and do something, because it's built up.
Well, and it's wonderful, really, because when you understand why a lot of these teenagers, or as they hit 18, 19, and they want to drink and they want to party and everything, but it's such an outlet for them, for all those, if they've had a life of suppression of their emotions and things like that. But I also noticed with alcohol, if there's a lot of bottled sadness and anger and stuff like that, and you go to a party and you can't understand why after a while this person's drinking and they want to fight everybody and they get really angry. This is the way they want to release it. It's like, no, go out there and get a punching bag or something, don't take it out on the person.
So how does the past life respond to wrong frame of words there. So how does it respond as well for people with past lives, and from your findings of a lot of anger? So let's talk a bit about anger and how it connects to past life as well.
Well, I'll just give you an example. When I've taken a person back into a past life and they feel that they're wronged by, and they're really angry and they're lashing out in that past life, and they wonder why they've got all this suppressed anger and they don't know where it's coming from in this lifetime, right? And so the question is, like, I get people to write down a list of things that they want, that they want answers to. And it's like, well, why does my mother, trigger me on this and this and the other? Or why is my father this way? Or whatever it is like that. And, and sometimes it's just other relationships or experiences that they're carrying on, and it's triggering things in this lifetime. They can't understand it, but they've got this deep anger in them. And my grandson, he's got a lot of anger in him, and I've been wanting to do a regression with him. He's 19 now, but when he was young, he used to lash out physically to his older brother in such a way. And and I kept saying to my daughter, I'd really like to work with him, and he was not open to it, so I couldn't. But I said, he needs anger management. Where is it coming from? Because he was in a balanced environment, but his brother would trigger him, and he would get so angry where he wanted to become very violent. Clients that have come in and they've got, I don't know where I've got all this anger from. You take them back to a past life. I ask their higher self to take them back to the root cause lifetime where it first originated, because sometimes you can carry it over through several lifetimes.
There we go. We
Okay.
complete. Wow, wow, there's some funny things going on tonight, Debbie. All of a sudden the Zoom just disappeared, then it restarted again. That's
I
never
know.
ever
So did that
happened to.
cut out what I was saying?
Yeah, so you just cut out the last say 5 seconds. It quickly just disappeared and just came straight back on. I don't know what happened then. So yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
So going back to going back to the anger. So when I take a person back into a past life and they get to see that they're wronged by, and they get very angry, and so they so they handle it wrong. They've either hurt somebody or they've killed somebody, and and perpetuate this suppressed anger in there. And so at the end of that past life, this is where this is where I find the healing is. It's not the story so much, it's where the healing, the pivotal healing area is time. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I was meant to learn, or what were you meant to learn? I was meant to learn compassion. I was meant to learn, an understanding, or or forgiveness. And it's usually the situations are pretty unforgivable.
Yes.
Or in your mind you go, well, that's pretty unforgivable, this person did this to me. But you have to become at a soul level even greater than that situation. How, it's easy to forgive somebody on a minor scale, but when someone does something that seems so unforgivable to you, it's
Yeah.
very, very hard to really let it go. And it's a very, very deep soul level of forgiveness that we have to get to. And it's, and it can't be just the words. It has to be an emotional, it has to come deep in the soul emotionally. And a lot of the time it's doing through past life regression.
Yes.
It's to go back to where you created it, to understand why you chose it, what were you meant to learn from it. And then I ask their higher self to bring through the frequencies into their body and dissolve that negative imprinting out of their cells, out of their energy field, out of timelines, past, present, and future, all the way back through the ancestral lineage, back to point zero, because that's the only way this is going to roll up and remove that energy and remove that karma, and start and open up a different opportunities of it, open up a different timeline for them to move forward. That's the healing aspect of the work that I do, and I'm sure that that's exactly what you do too.
Yes. And so for relationships, mother and father, do you tend to find a lot of, you go and regress and you go into past life where the mother and father have had unresolved stuff, and this is their lifetime to move past that and kind of and clear that karma out.
Yes, and you choose, and the thing is, when you're choosing to come in, um like when you pass over from a lifetime, I sometimes I ask people when at the point of death and everything, and they go through all the lessons and everything, and then I get them to go, and this is in a past life, and
Yeah.
I ask them to go back, to go beyond that lifetime, and to where they go to and what happens next. And that, when people say when they, when they're drowning or they're going through, a dying experience, their whole life flashes before the a point when you cross over, you get to review at a higher level, and you get to see from different lifetimes that you wanted to step into to evolve yourself to. And
Outstanding.
yeah, and so and so it's not random. When your parents aren't random, you come through and chose and said, realize, say, okay, in this life, this coming lifetime that where I'm going to reincarnate into, this is what I feel, what is my biggest lesson that I need to learn that will evolve me more than I've ever evolved in any other lifetime. And so these are the parents, it's going to trigger me and bring those unfinished karmic situations back, so that I can actually get the wisdom from it and make a different choice. And when you make that different choice, like I have and you have, with carry it on through your children. When you make these different choices, that's evolution. That's what we're here to do. We're here to evolve beyond our, all of our stuff.
Yes.
We're here to evolve and become greater than all of our experiences that we've had unfinished business with. That's part of our evolution.
There we go, evolution and acceptance. So this, I feel, connects to accepting, because a lot of people don't accept their parents or don't accept their father. So how important is accepting your reality and being truthful for what's in front of you?
It's very hard to do just on a linear level, and that's why it's really, that's why there's help here for people, like with what you do and what I do, there's lots of others here that do different types of healing modalities that can help people to get to that point, to understand what it is and why they chose their parents and what it is for them here to evolve from it.
Beautiful. And so moving forward, so we kind of, so this show and what I was thinking about earlier was how good it would be to kind of go through the process of people who are finding it hard on these gates, or are finding it hard on these changes, equinox to solstice. And so it's great to go into this with you, Debbie, to kind of look into the mechanics of how important it is to do the inner work, because I've been at a time in my life a while ago where I was doing teaching, I was doing work, but I wasn't actually doing work on myself. And how important is it, Debbie, for all those teachers as well, people healing other people, you have to really work hard on yourself, and you have to really, really go deep within yourself. How important is that?
Extremely, because you can't heal anybody unless you heal yourself first. And so, when I first started doing hypnosis and past life regression, I had done a rebirthing course. I had done, I realized I had a lot of unfinished pain within me. I'd gone through a divorce, I'd gone through a lot of stuff about my childhood and all that sort of thing. So when I did that rebirthing course, I got to heal a lot of stuff on this timeline. And when I became I did it like a 16-week course, so I could do rebirthing because I want to help heal people. And then when I was working with people rebirthing and bringing up their stuff from their childhood and helping them to understand, where their pain was carrying on into their adulthood, I realized it went deeper. And I'm completely, people kept coming back with the same issue. And I went, there's got to be something even deeper. Because I was holding a whole lot of stuff. I was holding on to a whole lot of stuff in regards to my marriage that that I felt like I had been wronged by. And, it was very, very painful. And
Yes.
so I was holding on to a lot of resentment and a lot of stuff like that. And when I had that past life regression and I got to see that I chose that partner because in a previous lifetime, a lot of stuff unfolded, and I was, and I was into the blame and anger and stuff like that. So I recreated to marry that particular person from that lifetime who was quite abusive to me, and married him in this lifetime in order to learn forgiveness. And I'm thinking, how can I forgive what he did, blah, 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 because he was sleeping around on me. He was, it's like all sorts of things that I felt unforgivable. But when I had that past life regression and realized that I chose to finish that with him, finish that karma with him in this lifetime. And when it rolled up, it was gone. I had nothing. It was just like 0 point feelings towards him at all about anything.
Yes.
And it was gone. And so the next time I saw him, because we were already divorced, I just said to him, I want you to know that I'm totally healed and I forgive you, and I just don't blame you for anything, because I realize that we both chose to learn something from this. And he goes, well, I can't forgive you. And I'm like, well, what did I ever do? Well, you should have put up with it. And I'm like, I should have put up with what? You sleeping around? No, I'm over it, but I don't hold anything, any resentment and stuff like that. And to this day, we're still friends.
And that's
healed it.
Yes, and that's so inspiring to see, Debbie, and from your story then of the stories do hold so many great teachings for us, and you going through that divorce and realizing what the greater lesson was for you. And a lot of people can learn about the
Mm.
life through hindsight, foresight of actually thinking, what is this relationship? What do I have to learn from it? Instead of focusing on all the
Mhm.
negative stuff, what can I actually do to make my soul grow from this? And yeah, that's
Yeah.
inspiring to hear that.
Yeah, it's definitely it definitely is. It's it's part of our evolution when you're like, it's really quite simple when you look at it in that type of way. And say, I come here to evolve. So how am I going to evolve if I don't have adversity?
Yes.
That triggers something that makes you want to, because if your life was all sweet and everything was running smoothly, you wouldn't look at yourself, you wouldn't do
No.
inner work. You just think it's all, all smooth sailing. And
And that,
this
yes,
planet it is all about polarity. It's all about,
yes.
this polarity is what's making you take a good look at yourself, a good look at your life and where you're going and how you can evolve beyond all the stuff that you're hanging on to.
Wow. And
Mm.
that's incredible. And I will share a little bit more about my father's passing. I haven't really shared much on the shows, but I feel like this frequency and us talking about this would
Mhm.
benefit a lot of people. So my father's contracts, so his death was as a birthing contract. Him and the fetus in the womb was a contract for all the soul family, not just the physical, but the ancestors who are my soul family in the ancestral home world. Is basically he came in as a great teacher to learn the lesson of mourning because, and this corresponds with past life. I've had thousands or hundreds of lifetimes where I found him dead on the floor. He's found me dead on the floor. My mum's found me dead on the floor, found him on the floor. So his lesson as a soul was to come in and teach us about mourning and how we have to go through that process of letting go and accepting for what it is. And that was inspiring for me, seeing that as a soul level, to see, wow, like you did, you saw the different contrast and you saw it in a different eye. And to see that all of these beings who are coming in are there as teachers. They're nothing more but teachers in this great, well, school of hard knocks, so to say.
Yes. Yes. And it's all about making them look at ourselves,
That's it.
because
Yeah.
everybody's, been sort of brainwashed to believe that everything's outside of ourselves. And so anything that happens, it's like, oh, you're pointing outwards. And
Yes.
I can remember this one, one of the workshops that I was at, and they're going, for every finger that you like, for when you point out, you have three fingers pointing back at you, right? These three fingers. So when you're pointing at someone, you've got three fingers pointing back at you. So
Wow.
it's a little reminder that, we always have a tendency, or we're taught to project it out onto somebody else, or it's their fault and this and that and the other. And it's like, okay, when these situations arise, what is it for me to look at within myself? Have I healed that, and that's why, or is it unhealed, and this is why I'm reacting to it?
Yes.
And so, where in my life have I done this, or I've been like that? And what do I need to change within myself now so that I don't repeat that?
And that's beautiful. And that's what I feel death is one of the biggest teachers. I feel when someone passes away and you have that realization and contrast them being there than them not being there. And for me, I feel death, it teaches a lot of people about faith and broken faith. And I feel this connects to trauma as well, why a lot of people have broken faith and don't know that the loved one's gone and they're still living on. And a lot of people can't, they're in between two worlds, aren't they? Where they don't want to let go of him, don't believe it, and they can come to terms with it. So they're kind of battling with two people inside of them.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, even with all the knowledge I had, when my mother passed, I happened to be, I was lucky and fortunate enough to, go back to Australia and be with her for her last 2 months of her life. And it was very painful for me. I was very angry about the fact that she was only, like she was only 80, and she had colon cancer, and her doctor never, with all the symptoms and everything over several years, um, never ever had her to have a colonoscopy, and she was having a lot of symptoms that would show that that was needed, and if they got at early stages, it could have been turned around. But by the time she found out, she was fourth stage, and there was, no turning back. And but I was angry because she was telling me that all her friends are going, you need a second opinion, you need to go to another doctor. And I'm like, why didn't you? I don't want you to die. It's like this whole thing was going through me. I was really angry, the fact that she was leaving when I was not ready for her to leave. And then I had to and I've had many past lives with her, and when I had, because I also like to do my own inner work, and so I found another person who did past life regression very similar to the way I did, so we exchanged a lot so I could go back and heal a lot of my stuff before I could heal anybody else. And so I got in touch with a lot of that. But it was interesting that I got to observe myself sitting beside her in the hospital and feeling these anger emotions coming up, and like, I'm not ready for you to go. And I just like, it's all very selfish. That she was ready to leave, and so she, and I realized that at some point she created that out. She was, her belief system was that this world was bad, and this was, she didn't want to be here on some deeper level, and if she was ready to go, but and I realized that I just had to let that go. But but you don't like to, it's just, it feels like a part of you because it's so attached. I've had so many past lives with her. That soul is so attached that I realize that sometimes this attachment can really, play havoc with you too.
And that's it. And that's a greater lesson there, is you seeing that attachment as a negative. I'd say it's not a nice word to say it negative, but I feel those attachments can bring in karma into your life, where next lifetime you'll have another lesson where it's even fucking worse, and you have to learn the lesson of detaching.
That's true, because it always comes back, if you don't learn it the first time, it comes back stronger the next time, because it's got to be right there in your face. And sometimes people are having such really terrible adversity going on in their lives, and they're like, why me? Why this? This is just unbearable. It's like something's got to stop and make you look at what's going on and why.
Yes.
And if it's going to take something so strong and so adverse for you to stop and want to take a look at it, then so be it. That's what you're going to have. That's what you're creating for yourself, because you weren't willing to look at it and go within when it wasn't as strong or as adverse as it is.
Yes. And that feels like it connects as well.
Themselves out when it becomes unbearable.
Yes, and codependency.
Sorry.
Then let's talk. It's okay. Again, we've had a show where the internet's been up and down. Then all of a sudden, your conversation finishes a bit early, but then it continues on. But it's just the way it is, and we'll just go with it. But so going on to codependency, Debbie, what's your? Because I feel that I have aspects of myself which are codependent in my relationship, which I do inner work on, which I've still got stuff to do in areas like that. How important it is for people during these times to understand how to heal codependency and how to be self-empowered, because we have had generations to generations where women, ladies have basically had no power, no saying everything. So what would you reckon to deal with codependency, because it's such a big thing still on this planet?
It really is. And you have to look at where that first started and how it first started. Why do they feel so that the need is so strong to be codependent on someone? It's because they don't feel that they are capable of it within themselves, and that other person is what makes them feel whole. And it's finding that wholeness within yourself that's most important. And that's where the inner work really needs to be done. And finding a group of soul family that can help you find yourself and your self-worth. Because I know that when I first started, after I got divorced, and I felt my confidence as a woman was out the window, honestly. And so then I signed myself up for a few workshops, and just to sort of try and find what was going on within me and to heal myself and stuff. And I realized that I like, you do anything for love, and sometimes this is where your self-worth is, and you make sacrifices, and you allow this person to be the universe of your life, because you don't feel that you are it. And it's really important now to find that space within yourself, or find that within yourself, so that when you go into a relationship, it's a union. It's not I'm reliant on you or you're reliant on me. It's just love, and you've got to find that happy balance. But you can lose yourself in a relationship, and women do tend to have a tendency more so than men to lose themselves in a relationship because they want love so badly. They may not have got it in their childhood, and there's something lacking in their childhood, and there's a carryover also from past lives that carry into. We create parents that will mirror that and create that back again, so that we can start looking within ourselves and find that balance back within ourselves. But a lot of the time we have to find this through modality, or try and find soul family that will help give you a sense of who you are. Yeah.
Beautiful. And that's it, coming into this, say, going through the awakening, the ascension process of what we're going to be experiencing soon. It's so important to find those people around you that can be fully truthful to, you can talk about stuff to, and they will actually want to raise you up and actually see you grow, instead of having friends who are jealous, or friends who will try and stab you in the back. Or if you're, and I've experienced those friends before, I've had in my life, and I feel that those healthy boundaries, and standing up and going, right, where can I add my boundaries? What are my friends like to me? And a lot of people get stuck in friendships because they feel like this is my best friend and he's my friend for all my life, and they'll get stuck still in that negative friendship because they'll feel they'll have to do that, instead of, like you say, Debbie, moving on into finding that union with your friends.
And I found my soul family, interestingly enough, with the group when I was working with Andrew Bartzis, and a lot of people came to me, with doing past life work through him, and which was wonderful. But I met a lot of friends at the workshops. Laura, that's where I met Laura.
Yes.
And, to me, she's a soul sister. I met you through that, Andrew. I mean, I'm meeting a lot of soul family that are all drawn on this path and on this trajectory, that where we can assist each other and help each other to understand where we're at, and yet we respect and honor each other's journey. We don't judge it. We realize that we're all still going through, we're all still learning, we're all still carrying certain things that, we haven't healed yet. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. If we'd healed everything, we wouldn't need to be here, right?
Yes.
So we're finding each other. And so there's, there was a group of people that I got really close to through Andrew, and we met, nearly every year in Mount Shasta, and we'd do ceremony together, and we just have fun and laughter together. And I still meet up with them. I bumped into them just recently, and it's interesting because I was just going to go to Shasta for the solstice in June, and so I took my daughter, and we were just going to go there, and one other friend was going to fly in from Florida, and we were just going to go there, and we just thought, because of all the COVID thing and restrictions that had been in the past, it probably made it traveling and stuff like that made it difficult for people. So we just thought, oh, well, we're just going to go there, just the three of us. And next minute, unbeknownst to us, David Wood and his partner, they happened to be in Shasta. There was another couple that that we bumped into in Shasta, and they go, we didn't know anybody else was going to be here, but that was part of our group, our soul family group. And we all ended up in Shasta without each other knowing about it, but we all got together.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes, and that's synchronicity. That's so true, Debbie. I'm meeting Laura on Friday. She's coming up on, I think she's doing a pilgrimage going up to Scotland, and she's coming to meet the family and doing a session on Gabrielle, and we're going to go to Thornborough and do a ceremony as well. And it's funny, and I'll have to say that to him. You're the man who's bringing all these soul families to get together.
Yes, I'm so grateful. Wonderful. I love everybody that I've met through Andrew, and he's doing amazing work, and it's just it is what it is. And and we've all been able to come and help each other with our modalities and with our heart space, and that's what the Lion's Gate's all about too, is coming to your heart. And when you think about your soul family, it's just like your heart just goes whoosh. And the fact, when you're saying that Laura's coming there, I was just like, oh my God, that's just going to be so beautiful.
Yes. And I think we've got so Matty, I'll meet up with Matty at some point. I'm going to make a trip down because we're all down there. I'm up England, they're down there. Is Amir as well, from he's doing some work on Andrew's show. He actually lives down south as well. And we've yeah, so it's having that freedom, and like your soul family members and my soul family members, or whatever, everyone's, it's once you're together and once you're kind of raising each other up. And I think with Andrew's, people who are drawn to Andrew's material, it's great because the people you're going to meet, people who are responsible for themselves and have some, obviously they're not going to be perfect, no one's perfect, but they have some sort of inner work, and they actually, you kind of like all love the same shit. It's like, oh yeah, you love working on yourself, so do I, Debbie.
Yeah, it's wonderful, and I've attended other things, other workshops as well, and I've still got and just even a pilgrimage.
Yes.
I went on a pilgrimage down South America several years back now, and I went through to Guatemala and and Chichen Itza and Palenque and all of that sort of thing in 2012. On the 21st of December, we were in Palenque, where the end of the Mayan calendar was going to be. Well, my friend Rose, that she's actually going to be flying in on the 1st of September, and we're actually going to do another trip there. We're going to do a trip to Shasta together and meet up with another couple. And I met her on a pilgrimage, and we're just like soul sisters. And she does cranial sacral work. She lives in Florida. And so it's, so one year I'll fly down there and spend 2 weeks with her, and we'll work on each other, because she's very psychic. She does cranial sacral work, and she's an amazing healer. And then she does, I do sessions with her, and she's the one who actually went back and saw herself as an insect. She was like freaking out.
Was that this
never
world?
Heard of mantis. She's never heard of mantis beings, right?
Yes.
And she's like, I can't do this. I don't believe this can't be true, And
very powerful heart space aware beings.
Yes. And it was funny because and then I do a regression with somebody else, and they were a mantis being on another planet. And they were teaching, a lot of spiritual stuff and everything. And so I called her a couple of days later and go, guess what, Rose? That this, I didn't know what it was. She was trying to describe me. She said, I feel like I'm a grasshopper or something like that, And this is going back, quite a few years now.
Yes.
And funny, just about a week after that experience, I have a client that's a mantis being that comes, gets in touch with a mantis being that's teaching him wisdom and all this stuff on another planet as like a master. And I'm like, oh, they do exist.
I think I actually
think somewhere along the line Andrew talked about them too, didn't he?
Yes, I think he did, and that's very. I think there was what I've only heard him talk about it once or twice, and I think, as I remember, it was something to do with Acturian Collective, the mantis or something like that. So very connected to Actuarius. But it may not be. It may. I don't know. The universe is just fucking so much shit going on out there.
Yes, you just never know what's going on out there.
Yes,
and I've had people go back into a past life where they were an alchemist on another planet, and they went to do some alchemy and some scientific work on this other planet, and accidentally blew it up. So they had karma, and they had to come through the reincarnation grid. Work out that karma.
Wow. Incredible. So thank you so much, Debbie, for coming on the show. I've honestly had a fun time. We've had lots of in and out signals, but it's been so fun, and thank you. I really do appreciate you, and I would love to have you on again at some point in the future again.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it too, and I love being on and talking with you and sharing our experiences. But I've got I feel a very strong heart connection as soul family, as we're talking about there. It's like I feel like I've known you forever. So, I'll give my love to your wife and hugs to your children too. They've got a beautiful family.
And quickly, how can people get a hold of you for past life regression sessions if they're interested in going into
They can find me. Okay, they can find me on my website. It's Blue Realm Hypnosis.net.
Yes. And I'll put that below as well. I'll put the link up there for Debbie. So
Okay.
thank you so much, and thank you everyone for watching this week's Talking Stick Show. Have a great Lionsgate. Whatever happens. See you later, Debbie. You have a great morning, and I'll have a great evening. See you later, guys. Bye.